Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to take the sources you send in. And today, that's excerpts from Mahabharata Volume 2, thanks to our listener, The Learner, and we'll dive deep.
Exactly. We pull out those core insights, the surprising bits, the aha moments you're after.
Yeah, think of it as getting straight to the good stuff, avoiding that information overload. So, our mission today, explore these amazing stories and teachings from the Mahabharata excerpts.
Focusing on what might really resonate with you, the learner, someone keen on knowledge, but also those intriguing details.
Okay, let's get started. Where should we begin peeling back the layers?
Well, the first thing that strikes me is just the sheer breadth of it all. We've got battles, sure, but also love, loss, big questions about life and duty.
It really covers the human experience, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump into Section 1, Tales of Valor and Conflict. The battle for Saba starts us off.
Right, you've got Samba, Pradyumna, Shaivaka's forces. It's quite the clash.
And what stood out to me was Pradyumna's initial defeat. You know, it shows even heroes don't always win first time round.
That's a great point. It adds realism. But then he rallies. Arjuna feels remorse, and Pradyumna does eventually claim victory.
And the fight between Krishna and Shavaka, that gets really interesting. Shavaka uses Maya, illusion.
Yes, which is fascinating, isn't it? It's like this ancient form of psychological warfare.
Totally. And it even affects Krishna for a moment before he shakes it off. What's the key thing for you, the learner, to take from this use of illusion?
I think the insight here is that conflict, even way back then, wasn't just about swords and shields. This Maya, it shows a sophisticated grasp of perception, deception.
Makes you think about how narrative, maybe even misinformation, shapes things today, too.
Exactly. Then after Shivaka is dealt with, Krishna and Trishtadyumna actually seek permission to withdraw. There's a process even then.
Okay, moving on slightly. Arjuna and the Gandharvas, chapters 244 to 246.
A bit more straightforward, this battle. The Pandavas win.
But what happens after is important, right?
Yeah.
The dialogue. Chitrasena, Arjuna, Yudhishthira.
And it leads to Duryodhana being released.
Which shows, like, a moral code, restraint even when you've won.
Precisely. It's not just about overpowering the enemy. There are these ethical considerations, this idea of dharma, righteous action, even towards your foes. It keeps coming up.
Which leads us perfectly into Duryodhana's despair. Wow, this defeat just crushes him.
Utterly. He goes to meet Karna and he's just broken.
He decides to fast unto death and even tells Dussasana to take over as king. It's such an extreme reaction.
It really is. Dussasana is distraught. Karna tries hard to talk him out of it.
The Duryodhana won't budge, and then this incredible twist that Daityas summon him to Rasatatala, like demonic intervention.
It certainly feels that way. They give him counsel, but even then, it's only at Karna's urging that he agrees to continue the fast, not give up entirely just yet. What's the insight into human nature here for you?
Well, it really seems to show someone who just cannot handle failure. His pride, his ego, it's all tied up in winning.
And when he doesn't, she opts for self-destruction rather than, learning or adapting. It's a stark warning about unchecked ego, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And about resilience, or the lack of it. A lesson that's still pretty relevant.
Absolutely. Okay, ready to shift gears.
Yeah, let's move to Section 2. Stories of love, loss, and transformation. And we have to start with Damayanti and Nala.
A truly classic story. We pick it up with Damayanti searching for Nala. She sends Sudeva to Rituparna.
With the message about a second Swayamvara, a clever ploy. It shows her determination, her agency.
It really does. She's not just passively waiting. Then you have Rituparna's journey. He's thinking about horsemanship.
And he's amazed by Vahuka's skill, who is, of course, Nala in disguise.
That's the wonderful dramatic irony of it. Rituparna praising Nala without knowing it. It underlines Nala's hidden greatness.
Then there's that strange exchange, counting fruit on a tree.
Seems odd, right? But it's pivotal. Rituparna teaches Nala the Aksharidae, the secret of dice.
In exchange for Nala's horsemanship knowledge. And this act somehow causes Kali, the spirit of misfortune, to leave Nala's body.
It's a profound moment disguised as something simple. The exchange of knowledge, this small act, triggers Nala's inner transformation, his path back to himself.
So Rituparna arrives in Krishnapura, Bhima welcomes him, and then Kashini, Damayanti's maid, interacts with Bahuka, testing him.
Yes, on Damayanti's instructions. She's carefully checking if this really is Nala. It's smart.
And finally, the reunion. Nala reveals his true form. They talk after everything they've endured. The texts stress Damayanti's unwavering devotion, her oaths to the gods.
Her faith never wavered. What do you think is the enduring message about relationships here for us?
Well, it has to be about perseverance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Commitment through unbelievable hardship, even disguise and separation.
Exactly. Damayanti's faith, her tests, it highlights that deep strength that can sustain love.
We also see glimpses of Damayanti's suffering when she was alone in the forest, meeting hermits, introducing herself. It shows her own resilience.
True, she wasn't just waiting, she was surviving.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Karkotaka, the Naga king.
Ah, yes. Biting Nala, changing his form, but also giving him those divine garments.
It's a boon, really, a disguise, but also a promise of restoration, like divine intervention paving the way back.
And even when Nala gets his form back, he's filled with anguish over what happened, what he put Damayanti through.
But her words comfort him. It shows that healing power of empathy in a relationship after trauma.
These transformations, the divine help. What's the significance?
I think it suggests that even in the absolute pits, transformation is possible. Unexpected help can arrive. Karkotaka's boon is like a shift in fortune, a chance for renewal.
Okay, let's move into wisdom and dharma, section 3. We find Yudhishthira in the forest really distressed.
Yeah, worrying about resources, not having enough for Brahmins, refusing to burden his brothers.
It says so much about his character, that sense of responsibility, even when he has so little.
Absolutely, and the sages reassure him. Shaunaka gives him wisdom about wealth being impermanent.
A timeless lesson, really. It's not about what you have.
Right, it's about inner strength, Dharma. And we keep seeing this emphasis on self-restraint, truthfulness.
And interestingly, even Dhritarashtra on the other side gets worried about the Pandavas.
He does. He asks Vidura for counsel.
And Vidura gives him straight, wise advice, even though it might not be what Dhritarashtra wants to hear. It shows that dharma and good counsel are seen as important even across enemy lines.
Precisely. Vidura consistently points towards righteousness, regardless of politics. It shows the internal conflicts, too.
Then there's a really touching moment. Sarabi's grief.
Ah, yes, the divine cow, talking to Indra.
About her children, the oxen, suffering under the farmer's yoke, a divine being feeling empathy for everyday earthly struggles.
It's powerful. It suggests the gods aren't detached. There's an awareness, a connection to the suffering of ordinary life.
And of course, weaving through all this is Krishna's divinity. He's described as Narayana, Hari.
His intervention against Shivaka, using his divine weapons.
Even Shishupala challenging him ends up highlighting Krishna's unique status.
Yes, these moments constantly reinforce his central role, his divine power and wisdom guiding events.
Now, the panda's exile itself is a huge chunk of this. Their life in the forest.
Meeting sages, like Markandeya, who compares Yudhishthira's situation to Rama's.
Draupadi's passionate plea for action, arguing there's a right time for tejas, for forceful action.
While Yudhishthira maintains his righteousness, earning respect even in exile.
Then the terms of the final year incognito, the divine help they receive.
Indra blessing Arjuna, Kubera, and Yama, visiting him.
Even Urvashi's curse on Arjuna, which turns out to be useful later. And Surya giving them the Akshayapatra, the inexhaustible vessel for food.
It really feels like the whole cosmos is involved in their journey, testing them, aiding them.
So what's the big takeaway from this long exile period?
I think it's fundamentally a period of trial, testing, but also intense spiritual growth. The hardships forge them, the sages guide them, the divine interventions hint at a larger destiny.
Hardship as a catalyst.
Often, yes. A catalyst for deeper understanding and preparing them for what's to come.
And nested within this exile are so many other stories.
Right, like Manu and the fish during the flood.
Agastya and Ilvala, the destruction of Ritra, Agastya drinking the ocean to expose the Kalakeyas.
Sagara's penance, Shiva's boon, the lineage of the Kushikas, Richika, and Gadi.
It's like a whole library embedded in their journey. Why include all these?
Well, they provide context, don't they? They illustrate moral points, offer parallels to the Pandavas' own struggles. They connect their specific story to this vast cosmic history and the recurring cycles of Dharma.
Makes sense. We also got the story of Agastya again, this time with Lopamudra.
Yes, her beauty, their marriage, but then their conversation about wealth. She sets conditions for their union, wanting ornaments and comfort.
It feels very human, that negotiation between spiritual pursuits and worldly needs or desires.
It does. It explores that complex balance.
And then Brihadrashva teaches Yudhishthira about kingship.
Emphasizing the need for good counsel, what makes a wise advisor, the dangers of ruling alone. Using the story of King Bali as an example.
Ancient political science, almost. Timeless advice on leadership.
Absolutely. The importance of listening to wise counsel.
The texts also stress devotion and austerity, right? Reciting Surya's names.
Dhritarashtra performing charities and Vedic duties, the merit gained from giving gifts, especially to Brahmins.
It underlines that whole system of belief, righteous actions, spiritual practice, generosity, having real cosmic weight.
Definitely. It's about maintaining harmony, both personal and cosmic, through these actions.
Okay, back to the Pandavas' journey. Yudhishthira meets Lamasha, the sage. He's anxious about Arjuna.
Yes. He hasn't seen him for a while. Lamasha reassures him, brings news of Arjuna's well-being, and even a message from him.
Which must have been a huge relief. Yudhishthira gets determined to go to Gandhamadana mountain.
And Lamasha guides them on a pilgrimage. This takes them to so many sacred sites, Tirthas.
Kuvarjangala, where the Saraswati River disappears. Praiga at the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna, Gaya.
Naimisharanya Forest. Each place has a story, a significance, a specific merit associated with visiting or bathing there. Like that story of a deer becoming human after bathing in a particular lake.
It's like a spiritual geography lesson. What's the importance of listing all these tirthas?
It emphasizes this deep belief in sacred geography, that certain places hold transformative power, spiritual energy, may be connected to gods or past events. The land itself is sacred.
And during this pilgrimage, guided by Lamasha, they hear more stories, like the intense one about Yavakri and Fedavaja.
Oh yes, Yavakri's extreme penance to gain knowledge directly from the gods, bypassing traditional learning.
Indra tries to warn him, telling him to learn step by step, but Yavakri persists.
Indra eventually grants him boons, but it leads to arrogance, conflict with Bharadvaja's family.
And ultimately, Yavakri's tragic death. It feels like a cautionary tale.
It really is. About spiritual ambition, maybe bypassing the proper path, the dangers of pride even when you have divine gifts. It contrasts with someone like Vishwamitra, whose immense power came through sustained, focused discipline with arguably better intentions.
So it's about the how and why of seeking power or knowledge, not just the seeking itself.
Exactly. The inner state matters more than just the outer austerity.
We also get the story of Chiavana and Sukanya. Sharyati's daughter Sukanya accidentally blinds the old sage Chiavana.
And then devotes herself to him out of remorse. It's quite a story of devotion.
Then the Ashwini Kumaras, the divine physicians, restore his sight and youth.
And Chiavana, in return, forces Indra to accept the Ashwinis sharing the Soma sacrifice, which they previously weren't allowed.
He creates this powerful magical being to threaten Indra. It shows the power of knowledge, of tapasya maybe, and integrates healing with divinity.
It does. It's a fascinating blend. Sukanya's devotion enables his restoration, and his power ensures the Ashwinis get their due respect.
Then there's Kahota and Ashtavakra.
Another brilliant story. The unborn Ashtavakra, correcting his father Kahota's recitation from the womb.
And Kahota curses him to be born crooked in 8 places, hence the name Ashtavakra.
But later, Kahota loses a debate to Vandine and is drowned. Ashtavakra, still a boy, goes to the court.
And defeats Vandine in a philosophical debate, winning his father back as Vandine is revealed to be Varuna's son, just testing scholars.
It's an incredible story about innate wisdom, the power of knowledge transcending age or appearance, and challenging authority with truth.
We also have to mention Draupadi's humiliation again. The text mentions her sorrow, her distress after that awful event in the assembly hall.
Yes, it's a crucial point revisited, reminding us of the injustice that fuels the conflict, and her reliance on her husband's eventual VOWS for vengeance. It's a source of trauma and motivation.
And finally, just to round off the Pandava support system in exile, Ghatotkacha's arrival.
Bhima's Rakshasa son. Yudhishthira remembers him and calls for his help.
And Ghatotkacha arrives immediately, ready to serve, using his powers to carry them swiftly towards Gandhamadana.
It shows the loyalty they command from diverse allies, and his strength is a huge asset on their difficult journey.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot we've covered. An incredible journey through just these excerpts.
It really is. From epic battles and illusions to intimate stories of love and loss, deep philosophical discussions, divine interventions.
Tales of valor, transformation, wisdom, the power of place, the importance of dharma.
It's clear why these ancient stories still speak to us. They dig into such fundamental aspects of the human condition, don't they?
Absolutely. They explore duty, relationships, justice, failure, resilience, timeless themes.
Indeed. These narratives keep resonating because they grapple with questions we still ask ourselves today.
So, the learner, as you've taken this pretty deep dive with us into the Mahabharata excerpts, here's something to maybe mull over.
How do these ancient stories about duty, about relationships tested to their limits, about the search for knowledge and righteousness, how do they connect with your own understanding of those things in your life right now?
It's definitely a question worth thinking about. And hey, if this sparked your interest, believe us, there's a vast ocean more within the Mahabharata waiting to be explored.